Where did Afrocentrism come from? This idea that ancient Egypt and ancient Sudan civilizations were African with Black identity. It was actually an Egyptian named Muhammad Ali Duse. He was a playwright, political activist, and historian born in Alexandria in 1866 to an Egyptian military father and a mother from Sudan's Nuba Mountains. Napoleon had invaded Egypt in 1798, and that moment started Europe's obsession with Egyptian monuments and artifacts. They were literally eating mummies for medicine. Muhammad Ali Duse was 16 when the British colonized Egypt after defeating Ahmed Arabi's nationalist uprising at Tel el-Kabir. His father was killed that same year, and he was sent to Britain for schooling. From that moment, he was watching the rise of European colonial racist ideologies. At this time, archaeological and historical studies had just started, but the world still didn't talk about the importance of ancient Nile Valley civilization. They were only interested in looting it, and their museums were flooded with these stolen artifacts. In 1911, he becomes the first Egyptian to write about ancient Nile Valley history for a global audience in English and published an influential book called The Land of the Pharaohs. The book was a response to statements made by US President Theodore Roosevelt, who asked British to treat Egyptians and Africans harshly, claiming they were uncivilized, who shouldn't be given freedom or access to education, who are unfit to self-govern. We need to understand that before this book, many people in the United States didn't know that Egypt or Africa had civilizations at all. Following the release of that book, Marcus Garvey came to meet Duse, and that meeting deeply influenced the development of the early Pan-African thought. It reinforced the belief that Africans were not just primitive tribes roaming jungles, but had real civilizations. This inspired many other Black intellectuals in the West. One of the most prominent was Henry Sylvester Williams, the famous British lawyer and Black rights advocate. In 1920, he debuted a play titled The Pharaoh's Daughter. This was a major production that changed the course of history. The pharaoh was portrayed as Black, the daughter was Black, all the actors were Black, and when the world saw this play, African diaspora became fascinated with Afrocentrism. This later inspired movements like the Nation of Islam. He later moved to the US and then Nigeria, where he continued writing, traveling, and organizing intellectual conferences and building Pan-African, Pan-Islamic networks. He didn't claim that ancient Egypt and ancient Sudan civilization belonged to all Africans. His work aimed at restoring dignity and rightful place to African civilizations in world history.